Hello, friends, and welcome to an August edition of Just a Couple of Guys with your host, the legal eagle himself, and mock trial coach extraordinaire, my partner, Pat Crimmins, and yours truly, Ray Rovina, retired, but still enjoying our podcast, now, Pat, in its third season.
Third season.
We're having fun, are we?
Yes, we are.
And we're having fun today because we're celebrating an anniversary, namely the 50th anniversary of Fox Valley Orthopedics, a name that most people are aware of here in the Valley for a variety of different orthopedic needs. And Pat, we're going to talk with a few doctors and the executive director about the past, the present, and the future. Don't you agree orthopedics has really moved leaps and bounds over the last number of years?
Come a long way. I remember as a kid I got hurt playing football, and it was, do you want to have surgery or do you want to limp when you're 40? And so today I could probably have that surgery in 10 minutes, So
and they interviewed you about that.
What's that?
They interviewed you about that, as far as asking the question, do you want to have surgery?
Oh, well, yeah, and they asked a 13-year-old kid if he wants to have surgery. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I guess that things have come a long way, and their reputation is well known. We're here to celebrate. We're going to talk with one of the great doctors that's been here for a long, long time, Dr. David Morawski, and then he's going to talk about the past, and then we're going to talk to Dr. Vishal Mehta and the CEO of this organization, John Brady, and all of that will take place after a word from one of our fine sponsors. You just stay tuned, okay?
The Kane County Cougars are back for the summer. The best family entertainment around features sunshine, baseball, and fireworks through Labor Day. With great food, entertainment, giveaways, and running the bases after every game, there's something for everyone at a Cougars game. Thirsty Thursdays feature $2 beer, pop, and hot dogs. And on Sunday day games, a $15 ticket gets you $15 right back in concessions at the ballpark. Visit us at beautiful Northwestern Medicine Field this summer and make your family memories today.
Want to save on some of the biggest names in streaming on the network made for streaming? X marks the spot. Now you can add the new Xfinity Stream Saver that includes Netflix, Peacock, and Apple TV+. That's Xfinity Stream Saver for just $15 a month. All your favorites, all in one place. Only from Xfinity. For more watching and less spending, X marks the spot. Do it all on the network made for streaming and bring on the good stuff.
We're back here at Fox Valley Orthopedics. Pat and I are, along with what I consider to be, and this is because of conversation I've had numerous times with a variety of people, one of the gold standards in orthopedic surgery here in the Fox Valley, Dr. David Morawski. And Doctor, it's really a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, it's nice being here today. Thank you.
50-year anniversary of this organization, and now with locations in Algonquin, Barrington, Elgin, Geneva, and York. Can I assume that you've done some surgery in each of those locations?
Well, I've been in Elgin and in Geneva, but we've expanded and we have taken on new associates who are up in Barrington, in Huntley, or in Algonquin. Right. We have a therapy now in Huntley and in Aurora. So we've expanded our footprint quite a bit since when I started. So, this is a 50-year evolution of Fox Valley Orthopedics and in medicine. We've been up trying to stay on top of technology and the way things have progressed and brought it out to the western suburbs. So we're happy that you are having me here to talk about it.
Well, we're happy to celebrate a very important piece of the Fox Valley as far as medicine is concerned. Let's go back. They volunteered you to give us an overview of, I know you were not here at the beginning of the practice, but you understand and watched the evolution of the practice. Talk a bit how that's evolved, the practice has evolved over 50 years.
Well, from when I started, there was when I first interviewed, there were 5 surgeons here. And we had a practice on the east side of St. Charles, over by the high school on St. Charles East, before North was even a high school. And before that, and we also had a small office in Elgin by St. Joseph Hospital. And then before that, Dr. Wittenstrom was the senior partner of the practice. He and Dr. Danker knew each other from the University of Illinois in orthopedics where they trained, and Dr. Wittenstrom was a little bit older. He took a fellowship year. He was actually first fellowship trained orthopedic surgeon. At that time, fellowships were 6 months, and he did a 6-month down in Florida with a hand surgeon, and then he came and started to practice in 1973. It was just called Wittenstrom Orthopedics. And then when Dr. Danker finished, he joined in 1994, and they combined, and that's where we labeled Fox Valley Orthopedics. So that we're actually celebrating 51 years of orthopedics, but 50 years since Fox Valley Orthopedics. And so Dr. Danker really was a self-made sports medicine physician. Back then he did not do a fellowship, but he did a lot of, he was the family or the sports physician for many of the high schools.
Oh, yes.
He would be on the sideline. I think he's inducted into the Hall of Fame for being a team physician for St. Charles East for plus 30 years.
Right.
And then after, in 1980, Dr. Rodney Rieger came, and he was here when I started. So he came in 1980, also from the University of Illinois. And then we had Dr. Jeffrey Grosskopf started in 86, another University of Illinois graduate. There was another physician here for a very short time. He was a fellowship trained spine guy named Tim Massey. And then he moved on. And then Dr. Kevin Ketterling was our first total sports medicine fellowship trained, actually, doing a year after orthopedics. That's when it became more popular in the early first 4 or 5 people, they really were general orthopedics.
Right.
And then the community demanded that, hey, I want someone who does, not just one or an occasional ACL repair or an occasional hip replacement. I want somebody who does all of them, does a lot of them. So I joined in 93. Ketterling joined in 91, and I joined in 93, and then we had 2 fellowship trained. And then it just kept going. And 93, when I joined, there was this push to become an institute or to build something bigger than these 2 small offices. So that was the idea of those first 5 guys. And then bringing me on, they wanted to have the support. They knew they needed more people to make this happen. And it all started in 94. In 93, we put the shovel in the ground across the street and the south office, and we opened it October in 1994. So about a year and a half after I was here, we moved into this very large building with a surgery center, and the idea was to encompass everything, one-stop shop. Come in for your diagnosis, your x-ray, your MRI, and your surgery, and then your therapy after, and then go home, and be right in the community. And we've evolved from that to many other things. I mean, I can't really tell you how it's evolved in a short period, but we can talk specifics if you have any
Well,
questions.
give our audience, many of whom have bad hips, bad shoulders, bad knees, and tell them the evolution of the fact that back in those 90s and so on, a surgery might have been a few days, recuperation, perhaps over in Delnor, and now, to your point, one-stop shopping, they're in the morning and they're home at night.
Correct.
How'd that all play
Yeah.
out?
So when I started, I would say the total joints, first of all, at Delnor, where we were our primary hospital, it was about a year or two after I joined about a year or two after Delnor moved into their new facility. But before that, it was the small community hospital in Geneva and the Delnor Hospital of St. Charles. And then Dr. Wittenstrom and Danker and Rieger, they did total hips and knees, but they could only do one in a day. They had to close the room up, isolate it, sterilize everything, and that was it, because that was too much to do more than one a day. So that was how it started. And when I came, and the new hospital had the same rules, and I go, that's crazy. I came from a fellowship, we do 3 by 3 o'clock. And everyone was saying, oh, that's going to be impossible. We'll never be able to do 3x3. Well, now it's very common that we do 6, 7, or 8x3. So things have changed significantly, and at that time they would stay a week or 5 to 7 days at Delnor, and then they would transfer to either a skilled nursing or a rehab facility. And then when I came, I said, no, we can shorten that to 3 days. So in the early 90s, we had knocked it down about half to about 3 days, and to home, not to rehab. And then in the last 15 years or so, I started doing outpatient joint replacement at Delnor, at St. Joe's in Elgin. And it was it took a long time, but I said, why can't we do these in a surgery center if we're doing outpatient? And it was a lot of getting the insurance companies to buy in. Right. They weren't allowing it. There was no codes, there were no, so we invited Blue Cross Blue Shield medical directors to come and see our program and to see what we have. And they finally negotiated a deal that we were one of the pilot places where an independent surgery center owned by physicians only, we started to do the first total joint replacements in 2015. So almost 10 years ago. So we started with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then other companies started to allow us to do that. And then eventually the country started doing it, and then Medicare. So now we do Medicare patients, 65 and older, and all the Advantage plans. There's still a couple we're working on that won't come to the table, but for the most part, 95% of my patients come into my office, have surgery, and go home the same day.
I think we kind of glossed over the fact that you didn't introduce yourself really. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Specifically, what kind of practice do you have in terms of surgery and training?
Well, I came in 1993 as the first fellowship-trained joint replacement in the Fox Valley. There was another doctor out in Central DuPage who's been there about 5 to 10 years before me, and but I brought revision surgery and joint replacement surgery to Delnor in the Fox Valley, and that's pretty much been my practice. I do about 600 joint replacements in a year. I do about 25 to 30 shoulder replacements, but most are hips and knees.
Okay.
So that's my subspecialty, and I do a lot of redos. I'm trying to not be known for that. In other words, I don't like to see people coming from other physicians with major reconstructions that I have to redo. It's starting to do a little too much work as I get older in my practice. I like to do more of the simpler things now.
I'm sorry. The patients that come to this facility, the majority of them have knee and hip issues, or is it all over the?
No, we have a complete. So when they come to see me, it's mostly hip or knee. But
Right.
we see everything from foot and ankle, the knees, the hips, the spine, the neck, the shoulders, the elbows, hands. So orthopedics includes all of the musculoskeletal things. And we even have now, we know that there are doctors who don't operate but still take care of the musculoskeletal system, like a rheumatologist. So we have Dr. Nazir, who's a rheumatologist, and we have pain management doctors who help us treat conservatively things like neck and back pain with epidural injections.
You're sounding like you're identifying me in that particular guy.
Oh, I did not know that, Ray.
If I may, business is up over time, correct?
I think that we have definitely stood the test of time in a very difficult market in healthcare, because a lot of things are going into corporate medicine.
Sure. Large
Healthcare systems are buying all of the family doctors. When I started, every doctor was independent. I could know, if you remember, you've been here a long time, Ray, you remember all the old family doctors.
Yes.
They're all independent physicians.
Yeah.
Now, everyone's been bought by one of the healthcare systems. So
I guess my point, though, is in terms of people needing hip replacements and knee replacements, that's up.
Sure.
And to what do we attribute that? The sedentary lifestyles, obesity. What do we attribute this to?
I think that that's a complex. I think basically we're all living longer.
Right.
So our mechanical parts are wearing out. There's no question Americans suffer from being overweight, and it stresses out our joints. But I think just we are very active humans today, and we do a lot of things that wear us out. We play a lot of sports, all kinds of sports. Pickleball now has increased our business with wrist, hands, fractures from falling. So all these
My
new
wife
things.
grimaced down there as you said that, by the way.
I want to hear that.
Every time I see a pickleball match, I say, it's a future patient.
You know, you brought up the fact that you do spine surgery here. And this is just a perception on my part, and either correct it or tell me I'm right, that with knee and hip and shoulder, people come in here and they're out the door of that parking lot and home the same day. Is the same as true for a delicate spine or back, some kind of back surgery or neck surgery?
Well, I do know that our spine surgeons are doing more and more at our surgery center. They're doing disc replacements in the neck. So they come in, open the neck, replace a disc, and they go home the same day. Now, there are some complex ones that require surgery where you open the abdomen and you have to have a general surgeon because they go in from the front and then they go in the back. Those are still being done in the hospital setting because it requires multiple surgeons sometimes.
Now, to Pat's point about increasing certain types of activity, you indicated earlier about the Fox Valley athlete that you see, a lot of athletes and so on. Is that on the rise relative to when you first started in surgery back in the 80s and 90s and so forth, as far as athletic injuries?
Well, I think the community has grown out to Fox Valley. I mean, when St. Charles in 1990, you had one restaurant to eat at. You had one McDonald's. Now, the community has grown so much.
On a per capita basis, apples to apples, on a per capita basis, are athletic injuries increasing?
More kids are participating.
I think there's more participation. Sure. So per capita, probably yes. They're being, as I probably was with my kids, oh, come on, you can push it. You got a no pain, no gain. Get out there. And you see a lot of people and their parents coming in thinking this is going to be the next Simone Biles of gymnastics or the next, swimmer with the Olympic gold. So we all have those expectations or we at least want to get them into a college for free education under their scholarship. So we push them harder too.
Yeah, parents. I blame the parents, right?
Somewhat.
I wanted to talk a little bit about technology. I hurt my knee in football in 8th grade. Went to the doctor. There was a huge pop. Everybody heard it. Everybody stopped playing. I was carted off. And the doctor said, we can operate. And it was one of those 𝐕𝐚𝐥𝐞𝐲 scars that, comes from the top of the knee all the way down. He goes, or you can limp when you're 40 and have a hard time going upstairs. And I was 13? I chose the limping later in life. But today, that surgery would be, assuming it was a tear of some sort, the MCL or whatever, that surgery would be fairly quick, painless, and I would recover quickly, right?
Correct. That would be a very simple procedure today. Outpatient, maybe a meniscus tear, maybe a partial meniscectomy, maybe a ligament reconstruction done in about an hour, hour and a half, and you're at home.
Yeah. But the good
without
news,
a cast or anything.
Right. The good news is I can always tell when the weather's going to change, when a storm's coming.
Okay.
I'm your guy.
Barometer.
But so robotics are a thing. Are you involved here with robotics and that kind of advanced surgery yet?
Yes, there's a big push in joint replacement to help align knees a little bit better through computers. It's not as beneficial a surgery compared to robotic gallbladder removal or hernia repair, where it used to be a big 12-inch incision on the gallbladder. Now it's a small incision and you can do everything and chew up the gallbladder and suck it out. Right. Implants are large implants with metal and the incisions aren't any smaller. Right. But the technique is to try to balance the knee and align it a little better. Mm-hmm. I'm sort of I understand technology. I like the idea of trying to improve it. I'm involved in a team for the company that I work with to develop a robot that is better generation than the current robots we have, because they're really about putting points in, mapping out your knee.
Right.
And then if you put in the wrong points, you're going to get, in other words, if you put in the wrong destination, you're going to arrive in a GPS, you're going to arrive at the wrong destination. You're not going to be at the site you want to be at if you put the wrong information in. So there's some misconception about how robots can help in our particular procedure. But I think there's promise in it, so I don't want to shy away from it. I just think that there's great results in this operation, as it has been for years without robots. Robots are trying to improve upon it, and sometimes it's more marketing than it is fully the improvement to the operation.
Different surgeries are conducive to robotics than other surgeries.
Correct.
That's what we're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
That topic is a good benchmark for us to say we've now brought Fox Valley Orthopedics 50 years from its origins to the present. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the future. But before we do that, I would be remiss if I didn't say the following, because my wife and I both have had work done here, and while I'm sure from your view, all of your colleagues are the best, I would be remiss if I didn't throw shout outs to, you mentioned before, Dr. _Groskopf and Dr. Ketterling, who are no longer here, Dr. Shakur, who is on the staff, but I also have to say something about Jessica Clark, one of your physician's assistant, who is absolutely #1. And so I can't leave this without making those comments. And then
Was that the commercial, Kevin, or is that different commercial?
and so we appreciate you, as I said at the beginning, one of the gold standards here at surgery in all of Fox Valley, joining us today as we celebrate Fox Valley Orthopedics 50-year anniversary. Thank you, Dr. Morawski, very much.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
A commercial, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Do you love an outdoor concert? River Edge Park in downtown Aurora has you set this summer. Highlights include I Love the 90s tour on July 20th. And just announced, rock legend John Fogerty takes the stage on July 31st. You can get the Let Out on August 16 or hang on to those summer vibes with Poi Dog Pondering on August 17th, celebrating 40 years of music. The full schedule is at riveredgeaurora.com or call 630-896-6666 for tickets. Well, we're back, and pleased to have two new members of the panel here for the 50th anniversary of Fox Valley Orthopedic. Dr. Vishal Mehta is a practicing physician here at the center, and the CEO of the center. Now, that means I think that he runs things, but we'll let him talk about that.
The big wheel.
Mr. John Brady. And first of all, to both of you, thanks for coming on and giving us a moment. And we really appreciate the fact that we are able to highlight as a podcast a lot of different great events here in the Valley. And 50 years in a orthopedic environment here is certainly nothing to sneeze at, so to speak. So I'd like to get started, first of all, we've talked about the past, we were up here. Doctor, your specialty is sports medicine. And but I think the audience knows a little bit about some of the common injuries in athletics. Why don't we talk a little bit about some of the unusual things that you come to see and how you deal with those things?
Yeah, thank you, and great to be here today. As you mentioned, sports medicine, there's a ton of injuries that come through the doors here. The common ones are things like rotator cuffs, ACLs, shoulder dislocations. But we have a host, some people think sports medicine really just refers to athletes, but the reality is sports medicine refers to mostly shoulder and knee arthroscopy, right? So we're dealing with a lot of different parts of the population. So even the 70-year-old with a rotator cuff tear gets treated by sports medicine surgeons. Regarding some of the uncommon injuries, oh my gosh, I mean, we see, as you guys can imagine, we see almost everything. Some of the interesting ones are people with cartilage defects. So for example, if you have a knee injury and you dislocate your kneecap, you can knock off a piece of cartilage. Let's say you're missing a silver dollar sized piece of cartilage from the end of your thigh bone, the end of the femur. Back in the old days, we didn't really have, in the old days, I mean, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't have all the options we have today. Today, we can put you on a list and transplant a piece of cartilage after a donor passes away, just like a liver or a kidney. We can take a biopsy and we can take your cartilage, grow that cartilage in the lab for a month and come back and transplant it back in. We can use stem cells and different biologics to try to regrow that area. So there's really, sports medicine is amazing, and it's expanding all the time, and we're really, we're on the cusp of another huge leap forward in the next decade.
Back in the day, Tommy John surgery, which is the elbow for the pitchers, used to be a career ender almost. But now pitchers, organizations are drafting pitchers who've had Tommy John because their elbows are even stronger than they were before. That's the advancement of science, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, it truly is. The field has surgeons that are constantly learning and getting better, but unlike a lot of other fields, the technology, the implants, the biologics are also improving alongside. So you really do get huge gains, every 5 or 10 years.
John, I'd like to ask this question. Fox Valley Orthopedics is obviously it's perceived as an operation up and down the Fox Valley from Algonquin away to the south, But do you get patients here from some of the suburbs that are closer to Chicago and North Shore and South suburbs?
Yeah, we get patients from all over. Our 80% of our patients come from the Elgin through probably North Aurora, and we're growing in the far north and in the south. But if you look at where our patients come from, they really come from all over. It's not uncommon to find patients from Bloomington, coming all the way.
I had one this morning.
Yeah.
From Bloomington.
So I mean, as insurance changes and as payments change, you see a lot more of these direct-to-employer insurance programs that are preferencing programs that they can work with, that they know are clinically excellent, that they know will get the job done, and they send patients to us all the time. So we see patients from Wisconsin, Iowa, Central Illinois, Indiana, and just about all the suburbs. I actually was at church 2 weeks ago, and someone told me, I live in Roselle, and someone told me they had been a patient here. So it's they come from all over, and they come because of the care, the quality, the type of physicians that we have.
And Pat asked this question in the earlier segment for Dr. Morawski. Your background getting you to the position here as CEO.
Yeah.
He's overqualified, I think.
No.
Why? I'm sure he is.
So Vish is the
We
president.
couldn't find anybody else.
Yeah.
All right, there's the answer, friends.
Yeah, they swept left. Vish is the president and managing partner, and and we have a partnership with shareholders, 13 partners, and they were looking for someone with administrative experience to run the practice. I was actually semi-retired teaching at Loyola. I was on faculty at the Parkinson School of Health Sciences, and I was starting their Masters of Health Administration program there. Prior to that, I'd been at Northwestern Medicine and Marion J. Rehab specifically. But I was teaching healthcare leadership, healthcare management, and the power of LinkedIn, a friend of mine forwarded me the posting for this position and said, "This looks like you." And I'm like, all right, why not? And so I sent in the application with absolutely no intention of leaving my cushy academic job. And I met with Dr. Mehta, I met with the other partners of the group, and thought, these guys are going in the right direction, and I have an opportunity to use all of the skills I've developed in my 30-year healthcare career in this position. And what really attracted me was the enthusiasm for the things that Dr. Mehta was just talking about, the advancements and the changes and the growth. I've gone to a couple of these dinners where they're learning about some of these things, and this bone growing technology he's talking about. It's just fascinating, and I'm an intellectually curious person, and when people ask me about the future, I think this is a place, this is the type of environment you want to be in, where these aren't people that are doing the same thing they were doing 10 years ago. They advance and they change.
That's all well said. I just want to know if you had to get Sister Jean's permission to leave like that.
Sister Jean was very kind. She said I'm sure she didn't have to give me permission, but I did meet her once, and she's a very lovely lady.
105 years old.
I have 3 kids. They all played sports, and I engaged in a little preventive education with them. The tuck and the roll, and not to reach out with your hands. Do you guys engage in any preventative care, like talk to the high school athletes or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're very much, our main goal is to keep our communities healthy, right? And that means a lot of things. That means preventative education. It means teaching about nutrition, right? And then, taking care of them when they do have some bumps along the way, and preventing those bumps and minor injuries from becoming terrible injuries, like preventing the kid who's had 1 concussion or 2 concussions from having a life-altering problem. So preventative, all the time. So we partner, for example, with different physical therapy locations to try to decrease ACL tear rates amongst our young female athletes where it's really an epidemic, things of that nature. But absolutely. We care deeply about this community. I mean, we're all part of this community, and we want to do whatever we can.
Well, Ray and I both spent a lot of time here, and you could see the explosion of the soccer fields. Everybody's playing something, and that's the new playing outside your house type thing. They play soccer, they go back home and play on their video games. But with that explosion, obviously you guys exploded with treatment for injuries, right? Sports-related injuries.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things, right? So the explosion of suburban athletics in general, right? But then also what's happened is people have become year-round athletes on top of that, right? So you put those two things together, being a year-round athlete is, while if you get through it, you may be an amazing athlete, it's not always what's best for you to do, and it leads to a lot of overuse injuries. So you combine all of that stuff and population growth, and yes, there's a lot of people in need of sports medicine and orthopedics care.
We brought Fox Valley Orthopedics to the present day in our last segment. I'd like both of you to probably comment on this at some point. What do you see in the next 10 to 20 years as far as new trends, new things that are going to happen here? You're confident they will, but things that we really have not seen yet, if anything.
So, I mean, I can jump off on that. So the things that we've done, right? We've always wanted to bring the best orthopedic care possible, and I mean that in 2 ways. One, I mean the healthcare experience. We want our patients to walk in here, have an experience, walk out, where they go home and they say that was the best healthcare experience I've ever had, right? So we want that experience. But on top of that, we want to provide them with the best care, the latest technology that you can possibly get. And we've done that, right? So we're really, in Illinois, we're really the first ones to bring total joints to a surgery center. We're really, the first shoulder replacement in a surgery center was done here. A lot of the first cartilage repairs were done here. And we have big institutions call us and say, hey, can you give us advice on how you did that, right? So, and we plan on continuing to do that. And what I see is a world, forming in orthopedic care over the next 10 years that involves things like me plugging your parameters into a database, powered by AI, that we can both sit there and really understand what the best treatment options are for you. Or me, if you've got knee arthritis, instead of me taking a guess between cortisone, gel shots, platelet-rich plasma, stem cells, I take a drop of your blood and tell you what's going to work the best for you, right? So some of these things, AI and DNA analysis, are really going to bend the curve, combined with all the typical technological breakthroughs that we have in sports medicine.
And let's not discount tuck and roll.
And of course, tuck and roll, or just stay indoors.
Well, John, I wanted to talk a little bit about what you deal with every day, which is insurance. Has insurance with Affordable Care Act? Has that made your life easier, more complicated?
Well, lots of good things in the Affordable Care Act, lots of goofy things in the Affordable Care Act. But from an insurance standpoint, we are seeing a lot of changes. And to piggyback on something Vish was saying, the experience, the value that we bring to patients is the experience. So that means we want to get them in. Access is huge. That's a big part of the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
We want to get it done in a way that is quality and economically makes sense. So we work with a lot of different companies, direct-to-employer companies, direct-to-consumer companies, and all the big insurance companies to put together the proper packages to meet those goals, that triple aim, high quality, improved access, low cost as best we can. So those are things that we work with. Insurance is it's the way we finance healthcare is challenging, and but we work for efficiency. We work to create an efficient environment. Works from a payer standpoint, from an insurance standpoint, but it also works well for the patient because they're not stuck in the weeds on stuff. This stuff's complicated. I mean, and I do it all day, every day for 30 years, and I have trouble with it sometimes. So I can't imagine what the everyday person has to deal with when they're looking at this stuff. So the insurance has been a huge factor, but we don't let it get in the way of the quality that we're providing, and we differentiate ourselves through that quality and through the access that we can provide to patients and the folks in the areas that we're fortunate to serve.
And previously, we talked a little bit about you've got locations throughout the Fox Valley. Are those satellite offices? Is that what you're just trying to get to the patients, or is this the main hub, basically?
Well, it's the hub in that it's the surgery center, but I wouldn't call it the main hub. We have this is a big legacy office. It's been here for a long time. We have a very busy office in Elgin, across the street from Sherman Hospital, just off of 90 there. And then we have offices in Algonquin and Barrington, which are growing in their capacity as well. So the goal is to be where the patients are,
Right.
and not make patients have to.
I think the frustration, if I may, one more, is that somebody gets hurt, they call, and I'm not saying it happens here, but we'll get you in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that people have a hard time dealing with. So.
We've made, and we understand that, and we understand that from two perspectives, right? So one is the community needs access.
Right.
The second part of that is what happens if you don't go to an orthopedic surgeon and you can't get in. You go to an emergency room, which drives up the cost of care, not only for that patient, but for society. And we can't have ankle sprains going to the emergency room. It just doesn't make sense for anybody. It's not good for the patient, it's not good for society.
And there might be a misdiagnosis.
Or more commonly what happens is overtreatment, right? Or put in some monstrous splint for 2 weeks, So what we've done to combat that is basically have urgent cares, right? At almost all of our sites where you can walk in anytime, 8 to 8, right? So I did a clinic this morning. I had somebody with extreme knee pain for 2 days, can't take it anymore, and they walked in, and that would have been an emergency room visit, right? Which is that's not what the emergency room should be seeing.
Right.
So that's our way of combating it, and it's been incredibly well received by the community, and it's actually, frankly, made us happier because we're taking people when they are at their worst in pain, and we're truly helping them, and it makes you feel good as doctors as well.
I'm very proud of the profession I was in as an educator. So I put that as a backdrop to this question. It seems to me that I'm aware of the fact that many of your doctors do some teaching. Am I correct on that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, and in lots of different ways, right? So,
Please.
Yeah. So, for example, I teach at a lot of surgical courses where I'll go and instruct younger surgeons. I've even had surgeons, we had privilege at Northwestern, part of the system there, we had privileges for other surgeons to come and observe, and I would teach them how to do shoulder replacements. So lots of different ways. And, a lot of us are involved actively in research, getting papers out there, and sort of constantly, mentoring along the way. And we, one, we love it. It's really enjoyable. It keeps you on your toes. And two, it's our duty, right? It's our duty to educate that next generation so that this country has the healthcare that it needs, the quality of it.
I'm actually still on faculty at Loyola.
Very nice.
And I teach in the health administration program as well.
Well, with science being what it is, you guys have to stay on top of it. You have to have your own continuing education, right? It's not only teaching, but it's learning so that you can help bring the technology to the patient, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the next generation, I don't think Pat and I will be present on a podcast for the 100th anniversary.
Speak for yourself, Rev.
Fox Valley Orthopedics. But I'm convinced that there will be a 100th anniversary of Fox Valley Orthopedics because of the quality of work that you present to the patrons of the Fox Valley and beyond. And so for both of us, it's an honor that we were able to share this anniversary with you and to talk to you about the operation that you have here, and continued best of luck as you move forward here, providing quality care for the patients of the Fox Valley.
Let's
Thank
not
you
forget,
so
John,
much.
the marketing talent that you have also.
Yes, where would we be without Leslie?
Well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say, and really enjoy doing this.
Enjoy.
Yeah, the Fox Valley community is important, and it's great to see the growth in this area, and to see our growth parallel that and and maintain our relationship with the community is really, really important.
Here, you've heard it all here, the past, the present, and the future of Fox Valley Orthopedics. An organization you should know.
You should know.
We'll take a small break, and Pat and I'll be back for some closing comments. Stay tuned.
Hello, friends. This is Ray Rogina. Are you looking for the place to be? Voted best live music and entertainment venue by the Daily Herald in 2023? That would be Old Republic in Elgin, an indoor-outdoor hub with classic American eats, beer, and cocktails, plus the best sports bar, burgers, wings, and ribs. Best value? Old Republic. Another good place to be.
Well, we're back, and Pat, another interesting interviews, I should say. Did you glean anything from any of our conversations with respect to the following? That for any ache or pain you have, and I've got plenty, that coming here could be a real opportunity to get rid of that pretty quickly.
Yeah, just merely walking through the door, it was therapeutic, I think. But yeah, we all have aches and pains, some of us more than others. But this is a place that's near and dear to the community, and a place where we can get those things remedied.
As I said in the interview, they've got my insurance money over here, both from my wife's standpoint. She's had several procedures, and I have as well. And it is a quality organization with quality doctors, and the growth you saw over 50 years is something. So our thanks to the CEO, John Brady, and we appreciate his welcoming, and to Dr. David Morawski and Dr. Vishal Mehta for talking to us today. And for our
Crack.
well, he's crafty. The crack producer is not here. I'm starting to think that maybe I've graduated to not only being the crafty cinematographer, but maybe we'll be calling him crack producer.
After Paul was able to get that prisoner swap done,
Yes.
I think he'll be back soon.
Yes. But thanks to Kevin again for a job well done. We really appreciate it. And for my legal eagle partner, Pat Crimmins, I bet, even though we're not doing commercial necessarily for Pat, but a legal problem, he's always available. You can track him down and how you doing? This is Ray Rogan wishing you all a pleasant summer afternoon wherever you may be. And until next time, just a couple of guys, Ray and Pat. So long, everyone.
I was talking to my doctor. You know my doctor, Dr. Vinny Boombach. You know my doctor? Well, he told me last week in his office he got 6 cases of VD. I mean, he's all right now, you know. What a doctor. I called him last week. I told him, Doc, I swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills. He told me to have a few drinks and get some rest.